All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep, really deep. We're going to try to wrap our heads around the very nature of reality itself. We're going to build a model, piece by piece, that contains, well, everything. And I really do mean everything.
So let's just jump right in with a mind bender. What if? What if our entire universe, everything we see, everything we know, from the Big Bang all the way to its very end, what if it's just one single page in an infinite book?
So, let's get into it. There's actually a name for this ultimate container for everything, the totality. Now, this isn't just about our universe. No. This is the complete space of all possibilities. It's got every potential path a particle could take, every branching timeline, every possible set of physical laws you could dream up. Basically, if something can exist, it exists in here. You could almost think of it as the ultimate terms and conditions for reality itself.
Okay, that is a huge concept. I get it. So we're going to break it down into 5 parts. First, we're going to completely rethink time. Then, we'll look at worlds like cracks in ice. After that, we'll see why we need more dimensions, what it means for our universe to be on a brane, and finally, we'll tie it all together with the ultimate reality map from modern physics.
All right, part 1, rethinking time itself. The big question here is time a flowing river, or is it more like a frozen block? You know, understanding this is absolutely the key to everything that comes next. So our intuition, right, our gut feeling, is what's called presentism. It's the idea that only this very moment is real. The past, it's gone, just a memory. The future hasn't happened yet, totally unwritten. But the model we're building, which is actually rooted in Einstein's relativity, points to something completely different called eternalism. And in this view, the past, the present, and the future, they aren't happening one after another. They are all equally real, and they all exist right now.
I know that's a weird concept to wrap your head around, so let's use an analogy to make it a little easier. Just think of time as a ruler.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit, right? All the marks on that ruler, the past, the present, the future, they're all already there, coexisting. The 5-inch mark doesn't just disappear when you look at the 6-inch mark. Our consciousness is just, our awareness is what's moving along the ruler, and that's what creates the illusion that time is flowing.
This leads us to the official name for this idea, the block universe. And this isn't just philosophy. It's a direct consequence of treating time as a fourth dimension, right alongside length, width, and height. In this model, our entire timeline, from the Big Bang to the final heat death, is just one single, static, 4-dimensional block. It's all there, unchanging.
Okay, so if our entire timeline is one solid, unchanging block, then where do all the other possibilities go? And that brings us perfectly to part 2, worlds like cracks in ice. We're going to expand from our one timeline out to infinite possibilities.
So, yeah, if our past and future are already set in stone, so to speak, it raises a huge question, doesn't it? What about all the other possibilities? All the choices we didn't make, all the different quantum outcomes that could have happened, where are they?
Okay, for this we need a new analogy. I want you to forget the idea of timelines splitting or branching off. Instead, picture a gigantic, frozen sheet of ice. The really important part here is that all the potential fracture lines, all the ways it could possibly crack, are already there, just waiting inside its structure.
See, in this model, our reality, our specific chain of events, is like we're just following one of those cracks across the ice. So a quantum event, or a big choice, it doesn't create a new world. It's more like a tap on the ice that just reveals one of these pre-existing paths. And in the totality, every single one of those potential cracks is an equally real, totally complete universe. And it gets even crazier, because this structure is fractal. It's just like a Russian doll. If you could zoom in on any point, along any crack, you'd find a whole new, smaller sheet of ice, with its own network of even finer, potential cracks. This is what we call the block multiverse. It's a single, timeless, infinitely detailed object that contains every possible world.
All right, ready for the next zoom out? Here we go.
Part 3, we need more dimensions. Because it turns out our familiar 3 dimensions plus time might not be the whole story, not by a long shot.
And look, this isn't just wild speculation for the fun of it. Physicists are trying to solve some really deep fundamental problems, like why is gravity so incredibly weak compared to the other forces? That's called the hierarchy problem. Or why do particles have the exact properties they do? And the biggest question of all, how do you get Einstein's theory of gravity to play nice with the absolute weirdness of quantum mechanics? These puzzles are what led physicists to a really radical idea.
And that radical idea, that potential solution,
is a whole new architecture for the universe. Which brings us to part 4, a universe on a brain.
So what exactly is this new architecture? Well, you've probably heard of theories like string theory and its big brother M theory. They suggest the answer is to add more spatial dimensions. The core idea is that the fundamental bits of our universe aren't points, they're tiny vibrating strings. And for the math to actually work out, string theory needs 10 space-time dimensions and M theory needs 11.
So, where are they? Where are these extra dimensions? Well, the theory goes that they're compactified. Basically, they're curled up so incredibly small that we can't see them. But their shape, their geometry, is everything. The specific way these hidden dimensions are folded determines how the strings can vibrate, and those vibrations, they define the properties of every single particle and force in our universe. In this view, the laws of physics aren't fundamental rules, they're just a consequence of geometry. Okay, this leads to a really important distinction we have to make. Let's call the higher dimensional space that holds our single universe the N-bulk. Think of it as the private container for our reality. But then there's the meta-bulk, and that is the infinite, timeless container that holds every possible N-bulk. It's the space where every conceivable universe with every possible geometry actually exists.
And that gives you a sense of the scale we're talking about. It's just mind-boggling. From the perspective of this meta-bulk, our entire universe, our whole N-bulk, is nothing more than a single grain of sand on an infinite beach.
So, up to now, we've been using a lot of analogies, right? Rulers, ice, Russian dolls. But in our final section, the ultimate reality map, we're going to see how this whole wild model actually connects to the real mathematical language of modern physics.
And believe it or not, these crazy ideas really do have a formal basis in physics. On the left here, you can think of something called Hilbert space. It's the true mathematical map of all possibilities. It is the meta-bulk we've been talking about. And on the right, concepts like anti-de Sitter space, or ADS space, give us models for how our entire universe could actually be a kind of hologram, projected from a higher dimensional reality, our N-bulk.
And there you have it. That was a pretty wild ride, right? We started with just our single flowing timeline. We blew that up into a static block universe. Then we saw how that single block is just one path in a huge fractal block multiverse. And finally, we realized that each of those universes is itself an incredibly complex object, existing in hidden higher dimensions.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If every single possibility, every choice you could ever make, every path you might have taken, if all of it already exists as a real, complete world somewhere inside this giant, timeless structure, what does that say about the significance of the one path you happen to be on right now? Thanks for watching.